You're listening to today's top headlines, where we break down the biggest stories shaping the world. From major political moves in Washington to global conflicts and historic discoveries, here's what you need to know. In a narrow 52-48 vote, the Senate has confirmed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the new Secretary of Health and Human Services. The confirmation saw nearly unanimous Republican support, with only Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell breaking ranks. Kennedy, a longtime critic of vaccines, now heads the department overseeing U.S. vaccine policy and a $2 trillion health portfolio. His nomination faced significant opposition from Democrats, medical professionals, and liberal organizations, with over $1 million spent in efforts to block his confirmation. However, Republicans embraced his Make America Healthy Again agenda, which prioritizes eliminating harmful food additives and addressing chronic illnesses. His stance on abortion rights, however, sparked criticism from conservatives, particularly from a group founded by former Vice President Mike Pence. McConnell, a polio survivor, voiced strong concerns over Kennedy's past efforts to challenge vaccine approvals. Despite skepticism from some Republican senators, including Louisiana's Bill Cassidy, Kennedy ultimately secured enough support following discussions with Vice President J.D. Vance. In international news, Hamas has reaffirmed its commitment to the current ceasefire agreement with Israel, continuing the release of hostages as stipulated in the deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, has warned that if hostages are not released by Saturday, military operations will resume. Former President Donald Trump has also weighed in, urging Israel to abandon the ceasefire and escalate military actions unless all captives are freed. Hamas had previously delayed releases, citing insufficient humanitarian aid from Israel, a claim that Israel denies. Since the ceasefire began on January 19, Hamas has freed 16 Israeli hostages and 5 Thai nationals outside the formal agreement. Under the first phase of the ceasefire deal, 33 Israeli hostages will be exchanged for 1,900 Palestinian detainees, with a second phase yet to be negotiated. Israeli forces have withdrawn from certain areas, allowing displaced Palestinians to return home, while humanitarian aid continues to trickle into the region. Back at home, a federal judge has ruled against the Trump administration, ordering the restoration of public health data and web pages that were removed following an executive order on gender ideology. Judge John Bates granted a temporary restraining order after a lawsuit by Doctors for America claimed the removals violated federal law and disrupted medical research. In his ruling, Bates emphasized that everyday Americans, especially underprivileged communities, bear the brunt of these actions. The lawsuit argued that the deletion of key datasets created a dangerous gap in medical research, limiting the ability of doctors and scientists to track disease trends and make informed treatment decisions. Among the affected data were statistics on school health, HIV/AIDS resources, and environmental health studies. While the Justice Department maintained that the removals were temporary and still under review, Bates rejected their arguments and ordered that the specific datasets named in the lawsuit be reinstated. On to the inflation, the latest inflation report delivered a shock to markets, with the Consumer Price Index rising 0.5% in January and 3% annually. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, climbed 0.4% for the month, pushing the annual rate to 3.3%. Markets reacted sharply, with Dow Jones futures plunging more than 400 points and bond yields surging. Analysts now expect the Federal Reserve to maintain higher interest rates for longer than anticipated. Shelter costs, which make up about 30% of the monthly increase, saw a 0.4% rise, while homeowners' estimated rental values surged 4.6% annually. Food prices also jumped, with egg prices spiking 15.2% due to supply shortages linked to avian flu. Energy costs rose 1.1%, fueled by higher gas prices, while motor vehicle insurance continued its steep climb with an 11.8% annual increase. Economists warn that housing and rental costs remain a major driver of inflation, as higher mortgage rates force more Americans into a competitive rental market. In international news, a bizarre incident in Sri Lanka left millions without power on Sunday after a monkey reportedly caused a massive electrical outage. Officials say the animal came into contact with a transformer, disrupting the national grid. The blackout hit during a heat wave, with temperatures soaring above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Engineers prioritized restoring power to critical facilities, such as hospitals and water plants, while many households remained in the dark for hours. Sri Lanka's electricity board apologized for the disruption, but provided no updates on the monkey's condition. Experts have long warned that the country's aging energy infrastructure is vulnerable to such failures. Additionally, Sri Lanka is facing a surge in toque macaques, with an estimated population of 3 million. These monkeys have been responsible for extensive property damage, prompting government discussions on population control measures, including a proposal to export 100,000 monkeys to China. Next, former President Donald Trump has announced plans to implement reciprocal tariffs, a move that could reshape U.S. trade relations worldwide. In a social media post, Trump called it the biggest move of his presidency and vowed that every country would face equal tariffs to those imposed on U.S. goods. While details remain unclear, the plan could impact key trade partners, including India and Brazil. Trump has long criticized trade imbalances, arguing that nations with high tariffs on American products should expect the U.S. to respond in kind. The announcement follows his recent decision to impose a 25% duty on steel and aluminum imports, set to take effect on March 12th. Analysts suggest that while developing nations like India may be the hardest hit, the policy could also create tensions with U.S. allies who maintain lower average duties than the U.S. does. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet with Trump in Washington this week, with trade expected to be a major topic of discussion. That's it for today's headlines. Stay informed and subscribe for more updates. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.